Curvatures of spine. You see the spine from the lateral aspect. We can see four curvatures, so out of which two are primary and two are secondary curvatures. So the primary curvatures that develops within the intrauterine life, and in the intrauterine life, the vertebral column is entirely concave towards the ventral aspect, and the secondary curvatures are developed after the birth. And we have two secondary curvatures. One is cervical and one is lumbar curvatures. And these two concavities are facing towards the dorsal aspect. And these secondary curvatures are developed after the birth. So first we can see the cervical curvatures. Cervical curvature develops once the infant starts erecting the head, and that occurs at the time of or at the age of 3 to 4 months. So next is the lumbar curvature. Lumbar curvature it develops once the infant starts standing and walking, and that's occurring at the age of 18 months. So these are the two secondary curvatures, cervical and the lumbar. And in these two, the concavity will be facing towards the dorsal aspect. And next is the primary curvatures. Primary curvatures will persist as same in two regions, that is, one is at the thoracic region, that's the thoracic curvature, one is at the sacral region, that's the sacral curvatures. In these two, the concavity will be facing towards the ventral aspect. So these are the two curvatures, primary and the secondary curvatures of the spine. So next we can go on to the parts of a typical vertebra. So the typical vertebra shows two parts, a body and an arch. And these two parts encloses a vertebral foramen. Yeah. So this arch consists of a pedicle, then a lamina, and we have 7 processes. So 7 processes are a pair of transverse processes, then a pair of superior articular processes, a pair of inferior articular processes, and we have a spinous process. So pedicle, lamina, and 7 processes. So now we can move on to the features in detail about all these features. So first we can see the features of the body. So body lies anterior and the anterior part of the vertebra, and it's related with the weight transmission, or it's a weight bearing part. And the entire bone is made up of spongy, it's a spongy bone, and it's covered by a shell of compact bone, except at two surfaces, superior and inferior surface. In this part, it's made up of spongy bone and it's covered by a plate of iron cartilage. And upper and lower surface are related with the intervertebral disc. So bodies of the adjacent vertebrae are interconnected with the intervertebral disc, which is an example for the secondary cartilaginous joint. And if you see the surfaces, so the entire part of the body is concave from side to side. And the posterior surface, if you see, posterior surface towards the central part, it consists of 1 or 2 central foraminers, which transmits the basivertebral veins along with the nutrient artery. So this is the posterior surface. Posterior surface consists of 1 or 2 central foraminers, which transmits the basivertebral veins and the nutrient artery. So the anterior and the posterior surface is related with 2 ligaments. Anteriorly, it gives attachment to the anterior longitudinal ligament, and posteriorly to the posterior longitudinal ligament. Anterior longitudinal ligament is thicker than the posterior. So remaining parts of the body are concave from side to side. So that means the lateral, then anterior, and the posterior part. All aspects you see as concave side to side. So that's all with the features of the body of the typical vertebra. So next we can move on to the comparison between the bodies of 3 vertebrae: cervical, thoracic, and the lumbar. So in the thoracic vertebra, in the cervical vertebra, if you see, the shape of the body is somewhat oval shaped, and the upper surface of the body towards the lateral aspect, it shows 2 raised lips, and these raised lips are known as the uncinate process or uncal process. And this raised lips or this uncinate process, it articulate with the lateral side of the lower margin of the above vertebra to form a joint. That joint is known as the uncovertebral joint or joints of Lushka here. And this joint is mainly involved in the spondylosis. That's important feature which is related with this uncovertebral joint because it is involved in the spondylosis. So here you can see here these raised lips are known as the uncinate process or uncal process. It articulates with the uh, lateral aspect of the lower margin of the above vertebra to form the uncovertebral joint. Here we have the body. So that's all the feature related with the body of the cervical vertebra. It's oval shaped. And coming to thoracic vertebra, the shape of the body is heart shaped, and that's mainly for the T4 vertebra. So T4 vertebra has got this heart shaped. If you see the shape of the thoracic vertebra, so there is a gradual transition takes place from the cervical to thoracic. So if you observe the upper thoracic vertebrae, so it has got the shape of the cervical vertebra. And if you observe the lower thoracic vertebrae, it has got the shape of the lumbar vertebra. So there is a gradual transition takes place in the shape. So if you take the shape of the T4 vertebra, it has got exactly heart shaped. And the smallest body is for T3 vertebra. So T3 vertebra bears the smallest body, and remaining from the T5 to T8, that it's asymmetrical. The body is asymmetrical, and towards the left side it is flattened because it lodges the descending thoracic aorta. So that's why it's asymmetric and it varies below to the T5 vertebra. So as such, we can mention as heart-shaped body. And if you observe the sides of the body, on the lateral sides of the body, along the upper and the lower margin, bears two demi-facets, costal demi-facets, one above and one below. And the above facet which articulate with the head of the corresponding rib, and the below it will articulate with the immediately succeeding rib. So that's all with the feature of the body of uh, thoracic vertebra. Next, we can move on to the lumbar vertebra. Lumbar vertebra, it has got large, massive, reniform body, sir. It's kidney shaped, reniform shaped or kidney shaped, and it's large. So that's all with the features or comparison between the bodies of cervical, thoracic, and the lumbar vertebrae. So next, we can move on to the vertebral foramen. So already I told vertebral foramen. Uh, it is enclosed by the body anteriorly and this pedicle and lamina posteriorly. So here we have this is the vertebral foramen. And this vertebral foramen has got different shape in different areas. In the cervical region, it is large and roomy triangular shape because it lodges the cervical enlargement of the spinal cord. So spinal cord shows two enlargements. One is at the cervical region, that's known as the cervical enlargement. One is at the lumbar region, that's known as the lumbar enlargement or lumbosacral enlargement. So both cervical and the lumbar vertebrae, the vertebral foramen of the thoracic, vertebral foramen of the cervical and the lumbar vertebrae are comparatively larger and triangular in shape in order to accommodate the cervical and the lumbar enlargement. And for the thoracic vertebra, the vertebral foramen is small and circular. And it has got least diameter because here the spinal cord doesn't show any enlargements. The enlargement is present only in the cervical and in the lumbar regions here. And if you see the spinal cord, it's a cylindrical, elongated structure, and it will end at the level of the lower border of the L1 vertebra. So below to the lower border of the L1 vertebra, it continues as a nervous thread-like structure that's known as a phylum terminal, and the subarachnoid and the subdural space it extends up to the S2 vertebra, up to here. Subdural and the subarachnoid space extends up to the lower border of the S2 vertebra, and this part below to the L1 level, this vertebral canal, it consists of numerous tail-like structures that's known as the coda equina. It resembles the horse tail, so that's why it's known as the coda equina. So when this vertebra lies one over the other, This vertebral foramen will lead to the vertebral canal. Vertebral canal. So the up to the L1 level, it loads the spinal cord, and below to the L1 level, it loads the spinal nerves, and which is roomy, and it resembles the horse tail, and that structure is known as the coda cranium. So it's large and triangular in both cervical and in the lumbar region, and due to the enlargements of the spinal cord, and for thoracic region, it's small and circular, and it has got least diameter. So that's all with the feature of the vertebral foramen. So next.